Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Rose. I am the Recreation Manager of Events, Theater, and Studio Operations for the City of Vaughan. Thank you for joining us today. Before we continue, we respectfully acknowledge that the City of Vaughan is situated in the territory and Treaty 13 lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. The City of Vaughan is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people today. As representatives of the people of the City of Vaughan, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Every year, at the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, we come together to honor the brave Canadians who served in times of war, conflict, and peace. Today, we pay tribute to those who risked and, in many cases, gave their lives so that the future of generations ahead could live in freedom. I now invite Robert Tanko to lead us in the singing of the national anthem. Please remain standing for the last post, the silence, and the rouse.
Parade! Parade! Attention! Honor Guard, present arms. Flag party, take post.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us commend. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I now invite Padre Mark Stacy to say the act of remembrance.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Parade, standards! Ace!
Honor guard, order, colors. Stand at ease.
Please join me now in welcoming Warrant Officer 2nd Class Michelle Liu from 283 Air Cadet Squadron for a reading of In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
I now invite Padre Mark Stacy back to the podium to deliver the Litany of Remembrance.
Loving God, today we remember all those who served in our armed forces to preserve the freedoms you have granted us, to make it impossible for those who would take away our freedoms from prevailing. On each of these people, we ask your blessing. For the 628,736 Canadians who served in World War I, for the 66,573 men and women who died, for the 138,166 who were wounded, and for the 2,818 taken prisoner of war, we ask your blessing. For the 1,031,902 Canadian men and the 49,963 Canadian women who served in World War II. For the 44,927 who died. For the 53,145 wounded. And for the 8,271 taken prisoner of war. We ask your blessing. For the 26,000 Canadian who served in the Korean War, for the 516 who gave their lives and thousands more who returned forever changed, and for the 16 soldiers who went missing, we ask your blessing. For the 40,000 Canadians who served in Afghanistan, for the 159 who died, and for the 2,047 who were injured, we ask your blessing. For the family members who made great sacrifices in order to make it possible for their service members to be on watch in Europe, in Africa, and in the Pacific, who gave their lives to stand in harm's way, we ask your blessing. The Creator tells us that no one has greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. For those veterans who have been willing to lay down their lives for us, we ask your blessing. For those currently in service abroad, that they may be kept safe and returned home safely, we ask your blessing. Keep all our veterans in your care this day. Grant them the peace they sought to preserve for others. As we remember our veterans, we also pray for peace. Teach all your people the ways of freedom and peace. We ask this in the name of our Creator. Amen.
Thank you, Padre Mark Stacy. We will now proceed with the laying of the wreaths. Please remain in silence, reflecting as I call each individual forward, and one by one they will lay the wreath.
Parade, stand easy.
I first call upon MP Francisco Cervera for Vaughan Woodbridge, Canada. We now have the Honorable Michael Tobolo, MPP for Vaughan Woodbridge, Province of Ontario. His Worship, Mayor Stephen Del Duca, City of Vaughan. Warrant Officer Wally Mohammed, Veterans Affairs, Canada. Warrant Officer Wali Mohammed, the Canadian Armed Forces. Melissa Lanceman, MP for Thornhill, Korean War veterans. Warrant Officer Wali Mohammed and Constable Mark Lavenji, veterans of Afghanistan. Inspector Bill Rennie, RCMP. Captain Peter Ferguson and Warrant Officer 2nd Class Michelle Liu of the 283 Woodbridge Air Cadet Squadron. Superintendent Jennifer McHugh, York Regional Police. Chief Andrew Zavanitas, Vaughan Fire and Rescue Services. Andrew Anthony, President of Vaughan Professional Firefighter Association. York Region Paramedic Services. St. Padre Pio Catholic Women's League. Waves of Changes for Autism. City of Vaughan Hockey Association. The Sikh community of Vaughan Western Islamic Benevolence Society. Alpini Gruppo Vaughan. I now would like to invite His Worship Mayor Stephen Del Duca to deliver remarks.
Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, let me begin by thanking all of you for being out here with us today for this very solemn and dignified ceremony in such great numbers, individuals I recognize from right across our community. This is an event every single year that I always find, I'll say somewhat emotional and also very difficult for me to know exactly which thoughts should be shared. So a number of days ago at the city of Vaughan, at your city hall, we had our remembrance ceremony to mark this month of November. And I had the chance to provide remarks there that day and deliver a message first of all about the incredible gratitude that I know that we all feel with respect to those veterans who served our country in uniform so many years ago through so many wars. The First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, Afghanistan, those who have served on behalf of our country in peacekeeping roles around the world, and those who continue to serve in uniform, many of whom are here today. I know that here in the city of Vaughan, we feel such a strong sense of, again, gratitude to those women and men who have put on a uniform through the decades and have stepped up, and they've stepped up on our behalf. And I'm sure, like me, you heard the numbers that Father Stacy mentioned just a moment ago. By my count, over 100,000 Canadians lost their lives in the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean conflict, and Afghanistan. To put that in perspective, that's roughly, give or take, 1 out of every 3rd Vaughan resident. 1 out of every 3rd Vaughan resident who left the comfort and care of this community, communities right across Canada, going to different parts all over the globe. I'm quite certain so many of them not having a clue what they were about to encounter, and putting it all on the line for us, laying down their lives for us. Many being wounded and having the chance to come home but never being the same for us. This is such a profoundly important day for us as a community and us as a nation to remember and to never forget. And I know we all heard, like we do every single year, the recitation of In Flanders Fields, which was great. Something I certainly look forward to hearing every year at this time. So Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae wrote In Flanders Fields in 1915, First World War, May 1915. And he did it after being at the funeral of one of his brothers in arms who had fallen in battle. The entire poem to me is extremely poignant, but there is one particular passage or excerpt within the poem that I'm just going to repeat. I know we heard it only a few minutes ago. In that section, and to me this is the section that speaks strongest to me and what we're here to do today. And that is, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith, with us who die, we shall not sleep. Now, I'm not quite sure what Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae was thinking exactly in that moment when he wrote these words, these remarkable words that have stayed with us in such a lasting way and had such an incredible impact on so many generations of Canadians. I don't know what was going through his head. It's possible that when he said, if ye break faith, that he was talking about if as we go forward as a nation, women and men are no longer willing to put on the uniform and defend the country in conventional ways, that will be a breaking of the faith. And I think in a very literal way, I'm sure on some level he did mean it that way. But there are so many different ways for us as Canadians through the decades since 1915 and for the decades to come for us to ensure that, in fact, we are demonstrating our fidelity to those words that John McCrae wrote. Today being out in such great numbers from across the city of Vaughan, like we are every single year at this location, this is a way of us keeping that faith. Making sure, and it's always so heartening to see younger people at this ceremony each and every year, making sure that the next generation is fully aware of the sacrifices that were already done historically, and those that we know are still to come, and making sure that we never forget to educate and inform the youngest among us. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard to realize how horrific these experiences were for so many Canadians. The First World War, the Second World War, the Korean conflict, they were all so many, many years ago. So that's a way for us to keep faith. And here's another way for us to keep faith. We talk an awful lot, as we should, about the freedoms and the rights that we have in Canada today. Rights and freedoms that we have because people like John McCrae and all of those who served our country, in particular, those who made the ultimate sacrifice and never came home, the rights and freedoms that they won for us, that they kept for us, that they protected for us. But I think there's another message in all of this. And the message is that the freedom that we enjoy today is in fact not free. It's never been free. It only exists because these individual Canadians, through the decades, stepped up and protected us, and protected our way of life, and preserved it for future generations. It's an important lesson today for us to remember, and I know it's not easy in this era, perhaps more so than at any other point in our Canadian history. We have to remember that yes, we have rights and we have freedoms, but we also have obligations to one another. We also have a responsibility to look out for one another. And I'm sure that when John McCrae was sitting there in the First World War, and he wrote these words, and he thought about future generations, I'm sure that he wanted to believe in that moment that we would be able to both celebrate the freedoms and acknowledge the obligations that we have to be unified. Again, to look out for one another. Again, to have a community, not just here in Vaughan, but right across this country. And I think by and large, we as Canadians have done a really great job of honoring the words and the legacy of John McCrae and so many others. But I know, like you, that our work is not yet done. But the additional obligation that we have to those who have served and those who do serve is to make sure that we are forever vigilant about our freedom and our obligations. I'm just going to finish up by saying, and I said this at our Remembrance Day ceremony at City Hall on November the 1st, my older daughter just turned 17 a number of days ago, not that many days ago. There are so many people who stepped up, in particular in the First and Second World War, who were literally my daughter's age, maybe a little bit older. To put ourselves in their shoes at this moment, a century and a bit later, it's nothing short of remarkable to realize what they stepped into, what they stepped in front of. I know I said this a moment ago, but it bears repeating. I am quite certain they had no sense and no clue what they were about to encounter, but they did it anyway. War is not glorious, and we do, as Father Stacy mentioned, yearn for peace. But those who served and those who serve are glorious. Our war dead are glorious, and the valor and the bravery and the courage and the forbearance that they all showed and continue to show is really and truly something that makes this country and this community truly, truly special. So again, let us never forget them. Let us never forget their service. Let us continue to gather together in fellowship as a community each year on this day, but throughout the year, throughout the calendar, to always take the time to remember what they gave us, to be thankful to them, and to celebrate and honor their service and their memory. Thank you very much.
Flag party, change arms.
Thank you, Mayor Del Duca, for your kind and meaningful remarks. I now invite MP Francisco Sorbera for Vaughan Woodbridge to deliver remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends and neighbors. It is a very remarkable and commemorative day today, and it's always an honor and privilege to be with everyone this morning, and it's great to see, much as the mayor mentioned, so many people out today for Remembrance Today. Today on Remembrance Day, we gather at the Woodbridge Cenotaph to honor and remember the courageous Canadian Armed Forces personnel who have served in our armed forces and reflect on the immense sacrifices that they have made for our blessed country, Canada. Over the course of our nation's history, more than 2.3 million Canadians have worn the uniform, answering the call to protect the values we hold dear: freedom, democracy, peace, and justice. More than just words, but values, tenets that we hold dear in this beautiful country we call home. In times of war and conflict, whether in the trenches of the First World War and the Battle of Passchendaele, the front lines of the Second World War, including the landings in Normandy and the Battle of Ortona during the Italian campaign, in Korea, in Afghanistan, or in peacekeeping missions around the world, Canadian soldiers, sailors, and aviators have shown immense bravery, courage, and resilience. I will personally never forget accompanying Canadian World War II veterans to Italy to mark the 75th anniversary of the Italian campaign and Canada's role in defeating fascism and liberating Italy and Europe. The visits to the Commonwealth war cemeteries with rows upon rows of young men from various countries, including ours, who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. These Commonwealth war cemeteries, which stretch from Agira in Sicily to Monte Cassino in Ortona, were moving and unforgettable. We owe them and everyone who has sacrificed their life for our freedoms a debt of gratitude that we can never fully repay. Their sacrifices have shaped the Canada we know today, a country that is strong, free, and peaceful. And so today, we wear poppies above our hearts, we bow our heads in silence, and we reflect. We remember them, not just for the sacrifices but they made, but almost more importantly for the values they defended, values that continue to guide this beautiful country. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces continue to serve with honor and dedication around the world, whether supporting NATO's efforts, protecting our interests abroad or at home, offering assistance during times of crisis. Today, the Canadian Armed Forces is leading NATO's defense operations in Latvia through Operation Reassurance, with over 2,000 Canadian troops stationed in Latvia, a number more in Poland, and more in the United Kingdom. They are leading NATO's brigade for its deterrence and defense measures in Central and Eastern Europe. We and our NATO allies are committed to standing with Ukraine and the brave Ukrainian people as they fight for freedom and sovereignty and against tyranny and the unprovoked aggression from Russia's barbaric invasion. Unfortunately, after 80 years of peace in continental Europe, war is again started. While this mission may be far from home, far from the city of Vaughan, Canadian soldiers are there. It is a reminder that the fight for peace and freedom is ongoing, that we continue and we must continue to stand together with our allies for a better, more just world. And as the mayor so eloquently stated, freedom is not free. And freedom, what comes with it, are much responsibilities and obligations from every citizen that is blessed to live in a democracy. To all those who have served, and to the families who support them, thank you. Merci. from the bottom of all our hearts. God bless you. And may God always bless this special and beautiful country we are called to home, and so fortunate to call home, Canada. Lest we forget. Thank you, everyone.
I'd now like to call MP Melissa Landsman for some remarks.
Thank you to all of our veterans and our service members who are participating in this ceremony today. And thank you to our neighbors, those in Vaughan who have taken the time to come here to remember and to honor our heroes, and thank you to the mayor, and to our York Region first responders, to our federal, provincial, municipal council counterparts who are all here in this dignified ceremony. On this day, we honor the greatest generation and those before them who stand also to protect us today for their service and for their sacrifices for our rights and our freedoms, the ones that we cherish and the ones that make this country the best in the world. And on this day, we pause to remember those who served, those who continue to serve, those injured in body and in mind, and those who gave their lives in the ultimate service to Canada. You see, our country was built on eternal foundational values: freedom, democracy, the rule of law, pluralism, peace, and order. And yet our way of life has often been threatened or attacked or has had to be defended by the force of arms from those who would deny us those values. In Flanders Fields and the Somme, in Italy and Juno Beach, in Korea, on the Dew Line, in the air and in the seas, from Bosnia to Kandahar and to the war on ISIS, and today in Latvia, where brave Canadians give reassurance to our allies. We that live in peace, in comfort, owe them the sacred obligation of remembrance. There is a room on Parliament Hill called the Room of Remembrance. It contains books listing the names of every Canadian Forces member who gave their life for our freedoms and for our rights. 8 books, each with hundreds of pages, with rows upon rows of names, of sons, of daughters, of husbands, of wives, and of fathers and mothers who never came home. And it is our mission to ensure that no more names are added to that book. And we do that by remembering, and we do that by educating, by ensuring we honor our heroes with the support that is needed and the support that they deserve. And we do it through ongoing action, requiring dedication and deliberation. So while on this day we pause, if we truly want to preserve the values that we love, we must not only thank and remember our veterans today, we must thank them every single day. We thank our veterans, our servicemen and women, not only once a year, but 365 days a year, for a history of hard-fought battles and for the future of protecting our rights and freedoms, for our lives, for our liberty, and for our values. God bless our forces, and God bless this country. Thank you.
I would now like to invite the Honorable Michael Tibolo, MPP for Vaughan Woodbridge, to deliver remarks.
Good morning. It is truly an honor for me to be here this morning to say a few words on behalf of the provincial government, but also personally. You know, today is a day that I often reflect on, not just on Remembrance Day, but pretty much every day of my life. My father served in the Second World War. He was captured and spent 3 years in a prisoner of war camp. His brother spent 5. Him in Greece, my uncle in Russia. And my grandmother, who I still remember to this day, would always tell stories about how she hoped to see her children again, never knowing whether they were going to come back, until one day they finally came home. And when I reflect on his life and what he went through and how he persevered and came to Canada, started a new life, gave us incredible opportunities, it makes me think about what happens when individuals continue to be subjected to war. Recently, I spent 8 days in Kiev working with the military. I work in the area of mental health and addictions, and I went over to help them create programs to help service men and women that were coming back, but also dealing with the devastation of war to the families, the impacts that they have. And the time that I spent there and the time that I've spent with my own life looking and reflecting on how impactful war is on everyone, even when you're not subjected and actually participating, but the impact that it has on so many people in so many different ways. It really makes you wonder sometimes why we always seem to default to war, thinking that somehow we're going to improve the situation wherever that conflict is taking place. And when I think about the implications when it comes to mental well-being, when I think about the number of people that put on their uniforms every day, Remembrance Day is an important day to stop and think about the sacrifices that have been made. But we should never forget the sacrifices that continue to be made by anyone that puts on a uniform, whether that uniform is a military uniform and people are deployed around the world, or those that are here that protect us and give us the very underpinnings of democracy, the ability to speak freely, the ability to participate in activities. These are things that sometimes we take for granted. And on a day like today, it's important that our young people understand the significance. It's not just about remembering people that have passed away or that sacrificed their lives to give us what we have today. It's also an opportunity for them to reflect and learn that maybe what we should be doing is finding better ways than war to seek solutions and resolutions to the problems we see around us. So today, I thank all those that put on uniforms, regardless of whether it's military or otherwise, because you're all putting your lives on the line for people that you don't know. But you're securing our democracy, you're securing our ability to live freely and to speak freely. That should never be forgotten. It should be praised and thanked every single day. God bless all those that have served in the military, their families, all of you that continue to serve and provide us the safety and security in our country and stand tall to keep us safe and an example for the entire world that we can do things peacefully and live in a democratic way. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you once again for your patience, and thank you to everyone who came to assist. I'd now like to once again call Padre Mark Stacy to provide his blessing.
Ever-present Creator, we remember those whom you have gathered from the storm of war into your presence. May that same peace calm our fears, bring justice to all peoples, and establish harmony among nations. Bless and keep us in your peace. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the royal anthem, God Save the King.
Parade, marching!
With this, we mark the end of the official Remembrance Day service. I now invite you to join the march off of the parade, followed by refreshments in the meeting room on the second floor at Woodbridge Pool and Memorial Arena. We once again thank you for joining us today. Let us continue to remember those who served and sacrificed for the freedoms we cherish. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.
Parade! Parade! Attention!